Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Mentor Power Hour. My name is Elizabeth Shackelford, and I am so excited to moderate today's discussion with Jen Dass, Initiative's Chief Transformation Officer, US. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I'm so excited to be here and share my experiences as a working mom with everyone.
We are so happy you're here. Today, we are going to get insight into Initiative's mission, culture, DE&I efforts, and current career opportunities. We're going to talk to Jen about her day-to-day as Initiative's U.S. Chief Transformation Officer. We're also going to talk about the importance of career and family balance and how employers can support that integration. And we're also going to talk about how to combat burnout and how to create healthy boundaries to ensure work-life balance. A few housekeeping notes before we dive in. This session will be recorded and shared afterwards, and we will have time for audience questions at the end. So please add your questions into the comment section on the right-hand side of the screen throughout the session, and we will try to get to all of them at the end. Before we start, I want to share just a bit more about Jen. Jen is a leader in transformation, operations, and integration with over 17 years of experience across a diverse agency background. Her expertise is in data, technology, operations, and innovation with a deep understanding of media and marketing. Jen is married with 2 kids, Evan, 12, and Samaria, 8, and just relocated to New Jersey. All right, Jen, you ready to dive in?
I am so ready to dive in.
Great. Well, we're going to get started with a few fast 5 questions to get to know you a little bit better. The first one, are you an early bird or a night owl?
So even though I was 2 months premature, as my mom likes to say, I love to be out at night. I'm a night owl, and that kind of really worked well with my husband being a DJ for 20 plus years. So it was a match made in heaven.
Oh, I love it. And then what is the best book you've read recently or best show you've watched recently?
So I'm looking forward for sure to binge watch The Crown season 5. I've been watching every season, and some of the similarities between the culture and the culture of where my family's from, given that it was an English colony. But I definitely am into a little bit of scripted reality. So I've definitely recently watched Bling Empire on Netflix. If you guys have a chance to detox or want to veg out, it's a good show. But the one I'm really proud of is actually Cobra Kai. I'm a tomboy at heart. My son, who's 12, Evan, like you mentioned, not only sat down and watched the entire series with us, but then went back and started to watch Karate Kid, all the Karate Kid movies. So it was very nostalgic for me too.
Oh man, I can't wait till my kids are older and we can watch shows together and like both really enjoy them, not Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
tell us your best productivity hack.
Yeah, it took me a while to find my best productivity hack and what really works for me as an individual. For me, I think the most fruitful or impactful productivity hack that I can impart on you guys is planning my day the night before. So whether that's, hey, I have a big meeting and I want to make sure I wear a blazer, or, I have a series of events that I need to coordinate, or in this hybrid work environment, I actually need to go into the office this day and plan for an hour and a half commute now that I'm in Jersey. So that will be certainly something I would say is a huge productivity hack for me.
Oh, okay. Well, we've heard from multiple of your colleagues that you are an excellent baker.
Yeah.
So, okay, tell us what your favorite thing to bake is.
So my favorite thing to bake, although it is a bit messy, are cheesecake brownie bites. I love brownies, fudgy brownies to be very specific. And the mixture of cheesecake that gives it a little bit of savory definitely makes it, a good snack that you don't feel too, kind of bad about eating, except for when you eat 10 of them. You probably have reached your limit. But the most common thing I bake actually are cookies. So it's definitely a good stress reliever for me. It's one of the ways I decompress, and, definitely good for the kids to learn measurements and have family time together for sure.
Well, we've heard a lot about those cookies, so I wish I could have one. Okay, and then at the Mom Project, we love to talk about and showcase our superpowers. So would you mind sharing with us some of your superpowers?
Yeah. One of my superpowers that I think is something that's innate to my personality, is connecting the dots. I don't know how I picked that up, but I've definitely have an innate ability to say, oh, there's this thing happening here, this thing happening here, let's connect them. And it's proven very valuable both in my personal life and professional life. So I definitely think that's a superpower. But I also think as I've gained more experience in the professional industry, definitely remaining passionate about my work, but remaining level-headed as well is a superpower that I think is super important for anyone in the field, but also as you're juggling multiple things like home and work.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm sure we're going to kind of touch on all of those as we get into it. But, now that we've talked a bit about the personal, let's dive into the professional. We'd love to hear a bit more about your background. Can you talk about your professional journey and, where did your career begin and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So ironically, and as I mentioned to Thor quite often, who's our CFO, is more like a business partner. I actually started off in finance, and I think he appreciates my rigor to numbers. But I was working at a what you would call an investment bank in the trade desk, and reconciling, kind of the trade desk after hours every day after they close at 4. And I kind of realized it just wasn't me. Like, I need to be challenged and things of that nature. And I did it for a year, and it was like, okay, this is definitely not something I want to do persistently or for the rest of my life, for example. So I was introduced to a headhunter straight away after that said, you have an affinity for numbers. The media and marketing industry is all about numbers. Maybe you should, try to go into the advertising industry. And that's kind of how my career in advertising and marketing started. I was in ops or client finance roles in my early advertising career that, definitely gave me exposure to a ton of rigor and different ways of working. Then went to ad tech, which is now Mediaocean, formerly DDS, where I learned a lot of my product and project management skills. So definitely honed in on that. And throughout all of these roles, definitely had pivotal moments, but also really good kind of partners that enabled or encouraged me in certain ways that I brought along with me. After that, I kind of went back to agency life. So went to an agency to help build a global products, hence product management and project management, that still being leveraged today. That was quite a bit ago, and then kind of moved over to kind of more holistic operations, I would say, outside of just data and tech, right? Thinking about the end-to-end media lifecycle and things that are residual to our ways of working and more back office as well. I would call out during my journey, I did have to, let's just say, take one step back throughout this entire process of my career path, because my son, Evan, was diagnosed with ADHD. Not a ton of people know that, but he was when I was kind of in a role that was very high trajectory, very high productivity, very demanding. So, definitely, I would say that was when I had one of those pivotal moments I referenced, where I, had to take one step back, not only realizing that my son needs me at this moment and I need to have him in a good place before I move forward, but also, as my overall career path as well, having to take that into consideration. And then after that, it landed me here. So, that gave me a ton of inspiration and reflection on what I really want from a role, what I really, want to curate and represent as from a company and be a part of an organization. And I would say from the very beginning, even during the interview process, is very apparent that Initiative was the place that I wanted to be.
Oh, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, when you said you had to take a step back, I feel like every parent or, I think every person goes through that in their journey. I mean, there is a time when you have to kind of like retool what your priorities are. And it's just nice to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and, you can continue to go on the trajectory, even though you have those pivotal moments, as you said. For those joining us today that don't know much about Initiative, can you tell us more about the company and what they do?
Yeah, so Initiative is a media company within Media Brands that is part of the holding company IPG. And while we say we're a media company, we do media plus a lot of other things, right? So in the US, we definitely have a realm of services from client advice to strategy to comms design, which is more of our media planning aspects, all the way through activation, analytics, and then, operations and finance, as I mentioned, in addition to HR. So we definitely span the gamut of roles and responsibilities in what we call crafts or disciplines that are super strategic, right? Thinking about what is that next big idea? How do I get that data-driven idea into market? All the way, down to tactical of negotiating with our partners to get the best deal for our clients, or the right spot at the right place at the right time, reaching our audience. So there's definitely a ton of synergy, but also specialties that go into getting that done. And for example, earlier this week, I was speaking to a client that was looking to understand how they can enable data and tech for next best actions on their side, right? And how that tied to media on our side versus some of the more kind of internal conversations around our ways of working and playbooks and things of that nature. So it definitely runs the gamut there.
Okay, so we'll talk also about the $1 million question is, well, especially for everyone here joining us from the Mom Project, but what is working parent life like at Initiative? And what policies, benefits, and flexibility does Initiative offer to that make work-life integration seamless?
Yeah. So, I think overall you'll see Initiative is all about our people. And you'll see that not only from our CEO, Stacey DeRizzo, who is very much embedded in our culture and wanting to drive that forward, but also with our key leaders like Pele, who's our Chief Culture and Inclusion Officer, and Kim Miller, who's our Chief Experience Officer. We are embedded in our people. If you talk to our clients, it is our differentiating factor. And so with that, obviously, we have a ton of benefits that we offer for our people, especially as we think about their paths on building out their families, whether that be a flexible work schedule, right? Whether it's flexible hours or work from home. Obviously, we are all in a hybrid mode at the moment. I'm in the office today, but in other days, I'm definitely at home, which you've seen before. So definitely love that as well. There's also a family assistance program for temporary childcare. So if you have a need or your nanny calls out sick, you definitely can take advantage of that to try to get that childcare and caregiver support. It looks like
that is a perk.
I was gonna say, it looks like you.
Yeah, I'm like thinking about my son home on Tuesday. I was like, yeah. Anyway, keep going, but that's a perk.
No, all good. The other kind of thing that we recently expanded is our parental leave policy. So that is now expanded to give moms and dads more time with their newborns and children, which I certainly can say I was a bit jealous of. I'm glad my kids are older, but I was like, oh, that would have been really useful. And a perk that I think, and a benefit that I think everybody wanting to join Initiative, or everybody that's already here, that are looking to expand their family, are grateful for. And then, on demand, we have, in a digital age, obviously, as a part of our on-demand life, we also have an on-demand platform dedicating to building a family, that parental support, which have resources in family planning, childbirth, fertility, and all those things as well. So definitely runs the gamut for those type of benefits also.
Oh, those sound truly amazing, and such a testament to your team's integration into your people and what it says about Initiative. So now let's talk about your job as Chief Transformation Officer US. Can you go into detail about what being a Chief Transformation Officer means?
Yeah, of course. I think you'll find that Chief Transformation Officer differs across various companies. So I'll just throw that out there. Like what I'm about to describe to you may look very different if you were to talk to another company. But we all are embedded in the same premise of continuous and evolving change for the betterment of our people, for the betterment of our product, and obviously of our business. And so, my role here at Initiative US is definitely focused on our streamlined operations, like you alluded to earlier, ways of working, not only as we think about Initiative, but also as we think about all of our partner agencies that really do drive success for our clients, as well as, some of the overall strategic initiatives as we think about our client base and how we can benefit, or they can benefit from our services as well.
And then what about your day-to-day? Can you tell us what that looks like?
Yeah, so I alluded to some of this earlier. I think the reason I love agency life, specifically at Initiative, is that there are different problems to solve every day, right? It's not like I was mentioning with the finance role way back when at the trade desk. It's not punching in numbers for the same type of mechanism every day. We have problems that we need to solve for our clients. We have problems that we need to solve internally. We have new solutions we want to build, new product offerings we want to build. And so thinking about that way of working and those day-to-day activities definitely is what keeps me motivated and wanting to stay at Initiative long-term. The diversity of not only the types of problems that we solve, but the types of products that we build are definitely rewarding alongside the leadership team here. And, definitely one of the things that I'm super proud of. So my day-to-day definitely consists of, those meetings I was referring to. We'll go into a little bit later on some of the ways to make sure that time is very much blocked out so we can get the most productivity out of that. But overall, there's a mixture of client-facing meetings and solutions that we're looking at, whether that be tech or operations, or just getting everybody to talk to each other, right? Which seems very simple. There are internal kind of ways of working that we always strive to improve and things of that nature. So we have a great base on our way of working today. But as our clients evolve and want to transform, how do we make sure that we are leading them in that direction and thinking about what their needs are in the future, even before they think about it, right? And so a lot of the strategic approach on how we are thinking about that as we go forward is definitely part of my day-to-day as well. But I also want to mention that, while those are very strategic and thoughtful and, areas we should be focused on, I love to still make sure that we are in the deep details of solving a problem and making sure it's solved, rectified, and then kind of streamlined for our process as we move forward. So process improvement is definitely key, but it's also something that you probably need to roll your hands up a little bit for in order to achieve success. And I know I'm rambling for a bit, but I think it's relevant to mention, that's part of how my journey came to fruition, right? When I took over the BI team, or business intelligence team, way back when I wasn't technical, I learned SQL. And it's because I was curious, but also because I wanted to be able to say, if, this person had a problem and we needed to solve it together, how do I make sure that I can give them the knowledge that they need to get what they needed to get done? And so remaining curious is definitely something that I think is important as well.
Well, and I think it takes a bit of fearlessness to be like, I don't know the answer, but let's try to solve it, and then we can streamline it. Like, would you say there's some trial and error involved, and that's maybe one of the fun ways of like problem solving and figuring out the best solution?
Oh yeah, there are definitely test and learn agendas for experimentation. And I always, like very early on in my career in the ad tech space, I had somebody that was leading a product team that kind of said, you're not going to be very rewarded for the tactical things that you do, but keep thinking out of the box. And that's where your fulfillment and encouragement and rewards will come from. I still do both because I think they're both equally as important. But I definitely agree with you. Sometimes, things don't work the way you want, and you need to evolve, and you need to pivot, and you need to, continue to transform that process or that product offering. But sometimes it really works, and it works great, and you streamline it, and you, as Stacey likes to say, socialize it, immortalize it, and keep it moving.
It's probably not the best, perfectionists out there might think this is like, so scary, but It takes, I like this approach.
Yeah, I think it's also a learning for me. So for those perfectionists out there, I was also a perfectionist, and part of part of the career journey I was mentioning, I remember somebody telling me like, just get it to like where you think it's in a good foundational space, and then evolve it from there, right? So let's say it's like 80% baked or 75% baked, at least get it to that space, and then you can continue to evolve and iterate. And so I've learned that from an experimentation perspective, like it doesn't have to be fully baked or 100% in order to trial and error or test things out, but it does have to be in service of whatever that approach is. So for example, there's our space right now is going through an enormous shift with the way we've been able to execute digital media from a tactical perspective, and continuing to evolve in that space, staying curious on knowing what's happening, and then testing and learning into new approaches has been really fruitful and rewarding.
Oh, I love it. Well, now let's kind of shift to a bit more, talking about burnout. I mean, we know how fast-paced agencies are, and how, you were saying, being a mom in this high-powered job, like how have you combated burnout?
Yeah. So burnout is definitely a real thing. I must say it's definitely an area of continuous evolution and transformation. Nobody gets it perfect 100% of the time. There will be days where you feel like, it's exhausting, and there will be days when you feel like it's really invigorating. And I think, overall, a couple of things. So one of the benefits I was referencing earlier, we also have a burnout coach here who's more of like a life coach, I say. Her name is Dr. Kim. And she, not to be confused with Kim Miller, who's also our chief experience officer.
Not the same person, right?
We do call her Dr.
Big
Kim.
job.
But she's, for example, when I would say probably 2 months ago, my son had a bone infection, which was super scary, and not something that, again, a lot of people know about, but I think it would be helpful for this crowd to know. He's 12. He's a super strong kid. He never, has any complaints about anything. And for him to be in severe pain was really heartbreaking. And for him to be in severe pain, even after getting to the hospital and not knowing what happened, was scary, for lack of a better term. And so, everybody was really great and supportive here. Like, Stacy and the entire leadership team said, take as much time as you need and focus on your son. Which I definitely did, but I also took a couple of meetings, not because, I was asked to, but because it was my sanity check, right?
Totally.
I couldn't decipher where things were going with my son at that moment.
Mhm.
But, the normality of having a meeting that, was very, very much normal to me was helpful. It was about 2 weeks of, let's just say, not fun conversations with lots and lots of doctors. But I will always remember the support that I've gotten from the leadership team here, from everyone, from our kind of holistic agency and things of that nature that was aware of that situation. But it goes to the fact that initiative really puts our people first. And I probably, number one, wouldn't have been so comfortable saying or telling anyone that, even within a leadership team. But the fact that I feel like we're a family, we are a family, and I'm not saying everything is peachy every day, obviously, but we are a family that work together, and we spend more time with each other than we do with our actual families. Right. So we have to be open about those type of things. And I really appreciate the support that I got there. But going back to Dr. Kim, even though she's a burnout coach, my last hour-long session with her, she completely just spoke about Evan and, really wanted to deep dive into his situation. And she was the one who actually said, you took those meetings because it was your sense of normalcy. I was like, I shouldn't
say that.
Exactly.
Totally.
I was like, I shouldn't have taken those meetings. He really needed me. And I didn't. It wasn't a ton, but it was like 1 or 2 meetings here or there. But she was like, that was your sense of normalcy. You did it because you needed to feel sane in that moment when everything was chaos.
Yeah.
So definitely a benefit that I think is great for folks that are parents and folks that are not parents.
Burnout runs the gamut. I think you don't have to be a parent to be, but I do think that what she said, that was what I thought too, is like going back to work when everything else in your personal life is crazy. It's like everything else is out of control, but I can control. I do feel in control at work.
Yeah.
So I do understand that.
For sure. Some other tactics that I leverage for being able to put some boundaries in place are time blocks. So I'm a night owl, as we said during the Fast Five. I'm very in tune with myself and very self-aware that I'm a night owl. So in the mornings, early mornings, I will use that time. I should say early mornings and late evenings. I would use that time for email and making sure that things are responded to or things of that nature. And having some of the meetings start later in the morning around 9:30 or 10. So definitely very cognizant of that as well. And then I would say the other time block that I have on my calendar, which inevitably gets moved, but I still try, are focus times for non-meetings. So we obviously still have work that needs to get done. So how do we do that in a timely manner? And like I said, it's something you have to be conscious about and try to keep it on there, and it inevitably gets moved, but something that I think is best practice. And then overall, and I think, this was also a pivotal moment for me, scheduling energy over time. And so I know I'm really energized at specific times of the day or, things of that nature. And yes, our time blocks are still, in hour or 30-minute increments, but knowing that type of trait or being self-aware of that trait of when are you most at your peak and maybe scheduling your most productive meetings there and things of that nature will definitely help. And I think that that's super helpful as far as once I implemented it, it definitely was a game changer for me. And I don't want to, discount the fact that things will come up over the weekends, right? And I'm lucky enough now that my kids are older, but and understand like when mommy needs to take a break for an hour and goes off in my office, it's fine. But the net of it is that I personally, as an individual, am self-aware that I will have anxiety if I don't do X, Y, or Z. So I block, 30 minutes or an hour, depending on the work schedule or the day or what I feel it needs to get done in order to tackle those things. So I think that's super helpful.
Well, and then I have a question too. So you've talked about, you have energy blocks and you're most productive, in the afternoon or in the evening. How do you effectively communicate that to your team? How do you say do you just say like only schedule me for the afternoon, or talk about kind of how you communicate that to people that you work with?
No, I think everyone, so I will not say, because everyone has a different pace, right? Like one of my team members that's direct report is super productive in the mornings. So we have those meetings in the mornings. So I don't think it's not necessarily about being so vocal about, hey, I'm a night owl or morning person. It's more of like, if I have a heavy lift, I know consciously I'm going to schedule that for a time where I'm most productive. I still have meetings in the morning, don't get me wrong, but those meetings are more what folks would call like silent time of like one-on-ones or things of that nature, or setting the team up for the day where it's like, I know I have a vision in my mind, I'm telling somebody the vision and we're going to get it done. So I try to block it out that way. I try not to limit other folks because like just because I work in that manner doesn't mean everybody else does.
Oh, thank you. I think that's really helpful because we've been talking a lot about like, just like the best ways to communicate with even between teammates, and also in a remote environment, you just don't get that. You just sometimes that is missed because you're not sitting next to one another every day and you're like talking and just chatting. So we've been talking a lot internally with the marketing team is just how we best communicate with each other in this remote environment.
Yeah, the nonverbal cues are not there, so you have to figure out something else. I will say, if it's helpful, one of our teams in our crafts, they actually do like they call it the purple hour where they block out, everybody on that team blocks out 11:30, and they all take a break, whether it's to get coffee, obviously virtually, not necessarily together, but it's definitely a time frame where they respect that half hour and know that they're taking that as a break in their day.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm taking that back with me because also at TMP we have dim Tuesdays where we don't have any internal meetings on Tuesdays.
Oh, nice.
So it's like the best day for everybody to get their head, like put their heads down, do their work. And sometimes you don't have meetings, which is nice.
Yeah, one of our client leads actually has they have some time blocks like that too that they implemented across the entire team, which is very large. I won't tell you what it's called because you will definitely think about the client and like, oh, I know what client that is. But they respect that time. They've had those conversations and communication with the client to say we're collectively respecting that time, and it's definitely worked wonders.
Yeah, I think post-COVID, everyone's very, much more aware of boundaries and how we all can support one another.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, here at the Mom Project, this month we are talking about gratitude. And so we want to know, what are you most grateful for, both professionally and personally?
So personally, I'm certainly grateful for my husband who, inevitably has taken the brunt of the day-to-day with the kids and things of that nature. Super grateful for his support. Like he not only, supports my crazy ideas of doing things at home, but like he literally picks me up when I'm at work most days. And it's like, I know you haven't had a hard day. And, I certainly appreciate that and probably don't say it as much as I probably should. So definitely want to get that out there. My kids, I will be remiss if I don't mention the fact that they are going through their own little phases, right? Tweens are a hard age. I think every age range has their own little set of concerns, which I'm finding out. But my kids are the world to me, and I definitely appreciate them. I will also say it takes a village. So my mother-in-law was super involved and is still super involved in my kids' lives. But for example, she stayed with us for like the first 2 years of my daughter being born and helped us, manage everything because otherwise I probably would not have hair in my head. But she was a godsend. She still is a godsend. Love her to death. So definitely thankful for that. I'm thankful for the fact that initiative has not only let me do these type of things as far as sharing my story, which I, by the way, would have never been comfortable sharing before initiative. So I'm super thankful for that, but also the familial culture that we have here with bringing diverse thought and diversity into everything that we do. Whether that be with different types of genders or different ethnicities or different age ranges, it's very much at our forefront, and definitely something that I'm thankful for because I think out of the box quite often, and there are folks that listen to my crazy ideas and like, oh, that's not so crazy, Jen. But also, I think I mentioned this before, but my family is from South America and actually Hindu, and so this is the first time ever that I've been comfortable saying that, hey, I'm Hindu, I'm celebrating Diwali. We did a whole event around it, and that's just one of the many events that we have here at Initiative to celebrate our culture. This month is Native American Heritage Month. We're doing events around that. And I cannot tell you how much of a difference that's made in not only me as an individual feeling included, but also, the fact that we're able to share that across our entire agency is incredible.
That's incredible. And remind us, how long have you been in Initiative?
Yeah, I probably should have said that at the beginning. So I just hit 1 year at Initiative. Some people that are probably going to watch this later maybe feel like it's 10, but it's only been one.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking, because you're talking about all these amazing things that you've been able to take advantage of and how comfortable you feel. And I know, like, even at the 1 year mark, people may not feel 100% comfortable in their jobs, like they're still not their authentic self. So the fact that you've been able to celebrate who you are and be authentic and be honest about what's going on in your personal life speaks volumes about Initiative.
It totally does. And I couldn't agree with you more. And hence why I'm so lucky to be here. So lucky to have partners like Pele and Kim and Thor and Stacey on the leadership team, and Will Wiseman, who's our head of our chief strategy officer, and JP, who's our chief of comms design, and Maureen from a partnerships perspective. We have a really, really strong team in addition to Nancy and Rob, who lead some client businesses, which will remain unnamed. But also it took a lot of foresight for Stacey and Jared Martin, who was our global COO at that time, to say we need a chief transformation officer. Right. And so I'm not only thankful for that, but also really appreciative of that foresight as well.
And how do you show gratitude to your team?
Yeah.
Besides baking, besides number one, besides baking.
Shucks, I can't say baking.
We can talk about that too. Don't worry. Yeah.
So if you ask Pele, my white chocolate macadamia nuts are definitely one form of gratitude.
He has mentioned these. And if you'd be willing to share your recipe, we would all enjoy it.
I will certainly share the recipe. But overall, I think, like I was saying before, I have sometimes daily, sometimes weekly one-on-ones with key members of the team that say, hey, like, how are you feeling today? Let's talk about the work, but like, how are you actually feeling today, and how can I help you? And I think, that's so important, because at the end of the day, in order for anybody to be productive, you have to give them the right tools, but also the right forum to be able to be productive. So, I think while that's a ritual, I think it is a rewarding ritual, because similar to my experience with Dr. Kim, I find that those sessions are more therapeutic than anything else. And, the folks that are in those sessions definitely feel thankful that they have somebody that will listen to them. So I will say that. I mentioned Kim Miller a few times, our chief experience officer. She actually just rolled out something that's really cool that I think is a game changer, that is actually gamifying our rewards here at Initiative, called Work Tango, that, you can give somebody a high five, send them a virtual kudos, and they're able to accumulate those points and actually, take that to the next level of getting some reward in the system. We also do, actual rewards. So we have a golden elephant reward. We have other rewards that we have within our own, not only Initiative family, but also Media Brands family, that is, benefiting the work, the rigor, the, relentlessness of our people. So some of them are individual, some of them are, specific work streams. But those are all, different ways that we think about that from a holistic perspective. And then, I do still like to have, I know it's an old school term, but we're looking to have a mixer, virtual mixer in December. So definitely want to make sure that we have those social times where we're being social, but in a hybrid world is sometimes not holistically feasible, and something that we support as a leadership team. Kim's super helpful in helping us schedule those events and giving us ideas on what those events should be. And as well as, kind of looking at, some of the other areas of, time off, or, mental wellness days, which we have here once a month. So definitely an area. I keep seeing your mouth open every day.
I'm taking these back to HR.
You should. It's part of our culture here, and definitely a differentiating factor why I think everybody should come and work at Initiative.
Well, okay. And then we'll make sure too, for everyone, that we'll pop in the link for career opportunities in the chat, so you guys can all see what open positions they have at Initiative. Well, and I mean, in terms of like expressing gratitude, it sounds like you're doing both, the professional, like acknowledging and rewarding, but also like by checking in with people. That's just a daily act of gratitude, just to show that you're grateful for them and you're grateful for what they bring to the team, personally and professionally. So
yeah, and I think it's continuing to evolve. So while I do that for other folks, one thing that I'm learning to do, both with, gratitude as well as, setting boundaries, is taking time for myself. So one of the things that Dr. Kim, kind of mentioned, which I think is super important and something that I would love to impart on you guys as well, is having a gratitude journal. Just taking 5 minutes every day to write like 3 things you're grateful for. when you're having a tough day or when you're not having a tough day, and it will make a world of difference. But I also did realize as a working mom that it was work or the kids. And I definitely needed to, do something for myself or get those rituals going for myself in order to, be able to be my best self, both at work and at home. And so definitely was on the Peloton train. I got a Peloton. I love that thing to death. But smaller things too, like, just, taking the dogs out for a walk sometimes,
Yes.
Meditating for 10 minutes before, or after my day starts. So there are little things like that I think are super helpful. And it's so easy to forget to do those things when you're super busy.
So easy, but you can't pour from an empty cup. But like my team was just talking about this yesterday. It's just like, we were all like, I was like, why do I feel so anxious? And it was because I hadn't worked out or moved my body or done anything, for me.
Yeah.
So I totally, we talk about that a lot and how important it is. And I love the idea of we all take a break together. So I'm taking that back with me too. Well, is there any other, parting advice or anything that you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today before we get into the Q&A from our audience today?
Yeah, I think if you take away one thing from today, in addition to like all the little tips and tricks and my personal story, is I would recommend giving yourself grace. There are going to be moments or days or events that, you'd rather be one place or the other, but you can't clone yourself, right? And so I was just talking to Thor earlier about this, where, as parents, we're both parents. As parents, we have some angst or regret of missing things either at work or at home. And what I've learned over the years is you definitely need to acknowledge that, right? That you're not going to get rid of that feeling, but acknowledge that feeling, tuck it in a safe place, or, write it down, or whatever is your ritual, but then let go of it. Like you're going to have other opportunities to make those moments either at home or, at work. I think everybody knows now, if I go out to dinner, I'm probably leaving at 8 so I can tuck my kids in, right? Like there are those things too that everybody knows about me, but I would definitely say give yourself some grace, and it's a continuous evolution. There definitely needs to be harmony. There will never be a 50-50 balance. You need to make that prescriptive decision every day.
Well, I think we all needed to hear that, but that's why I was very excited to talk with you too, because I think as a mom of a 12 and 8-year-old, you have had that experience to know what it was like with having young kids. And then now, having older kids, like you have a bit more perspective. I have a three-year-old and a 5-month-old. So I'm like in it, and so that's why I was really excited. And I think this is very wonderful advice, parting advice from our conversation before we dive into these audience questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope that parting advice in this conversation has been helpful. I'm excited to get into the questions.
Oh, I said I was going to be taking notes the whole time, and I have been taking notes.
You have been. I've been watching.
I think we'll just wait and think a question okay, perfect. We got one. How did you make the transition to a completely different career? Did you take time off to plan? Great question from Elsa.
That is a great question. I am a worry bug, and I pre-plan lots of things. So probably, my husband and I balance each other out, because he's like the creative side and the less worry bug, and I'm the worry bug about everything. But just to say that I actually prescriptively wrote down what it is that I like about what I was currently doing and what it is that I didn't like about what I was currently doing. So I did that while I was in the role, to acknowledge that, like, I, definitely needed a change. And in order for me to be happy in my next role and be fulfilled, but also be my best self to the company that, I'm working for and I'm a part of, I needed to understand my individual perspective on what was important to me, what was important in my next role, and what was important for me to find in that new adventure. Hopefully that was helpful.
All right. Katie asks, what advice can you provide a mom who is a new entrepreneur who is working on bringing on new clients and trying to balance kids and hubby?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think as a new entrepreneur, you're definitely going to have more time spent on, work and building your business at that very juncture. And so, overall, being able to carve out that time to know what specific actions you're looking for when you have those time blocks, if you will, of building your business, of, potentially doing something that I'm uncomfortable with, that I'm now comfortable with, which is networking, right? Putting energy in networking and making sure that you're building those connections, because as much as we're in a virtual world and have been in the last couple of years, it is those relationships and connections that continue to build business and continue to, progress, especially as a new entrepreneur. So I definitely would recommend that. I would also recommend, though, which is something I'm also working on, so definitely advice for both of us, scheduling more time, prescriptive time with your husband and kids to do things, and making sure that that time is quality time. So definitely wanting to make sure that we're all sitting together for dinner, right, every day. And sometimes that's feasible, sometimes that's not feasible as a ritual, but when we do things, we try to make sure that it is, quality, and something that the kids will have great memories on, and things of that nature as well.
Yeah, I love it. Like being present being present for whatever it is you want to be present for.
Exactly. And I've definitely had a ton of conversations with my husband about that.
Me too.
Don't check your phone, Jen. So,
Yeah, what are you looking at? And I'm like, oh, just nothing.
I am not checking this email right now.
Yeah, I'm not looking at my Slack.
Yeah.
When you returned to work, how did you manage mom?
As a mom, I will say that was probably one of the most difficult times of my life, to be quite honest. And both times, I thought it would be easier the second time because I've gone through it once. But um, my son was, an emergency C-section delivery, because his heart rate went to single digits, and you just want to spend every breathing moment to make sure that he's okay and things of that nature. And so it was really hard for me, I will say, but I do think two things came out of that. One, I did learn that it was okay to make sure that, he had the care that he needed, and I had, the work-life balance that I needed to be able to provide for him. But as he grew older, I think he actually acknowledges that he likes his independence, and he likes to see the fact that mom's doing these type of things, and, being able to be more entrepreneurial. And it's actually sparked a little bit of a fire in him to, want to do more things and be more entrepreneurial himself. So I definitely think it's difficult. I will completely acknowledge that, but it's worth it, especially for your kids that are looking up to you as mentors in your family, to try to see how they should act when they grow up and things of that nature.
Oh, well, okay. I realized that the second part was mom guilt, which I bet you saw in the comments because that's how you answered it. But when you returned to work, how did you manage mom guilt? But you did answer that question, because that's exactly it. It's like, how do you deal with all of the things?
I did not see mom guilt, but I'm glad I was intuitive enough to
figure out. Because yeah, I looked at I just went back and looked at the comments, and I was like, I know what Denise is asking now. So I hope we answered your question. I think Jen did. Jen, I have a question. What do you think Initiative's main why is for offering these awesome, I agree, parental benefits from a business perspective?
Yeah. So Tiffany asked a great question. At the end of the day, in order for any organization to be productive, and if there's an organization that's out there that's listening to this, I think it would be helpful for them too. They have to be able to meld every individual's personal and professional life, right? They have to know that, we're prioritizing things on a daily basis that includes our personal life. And I think, we have not only a culture that acknowledges that and focuses on that, but we celebrate that, right? And that's why you'll see some of the best work come out of Initiative, I feel like. Obviously POV of one, but I feel like the happier our people are, the better work we'll produce, and the happier our clients will be as well. And so Initiative acknowledged that very early on, and has really hyper focused on that, and continues to be a focus as we go into 23.
What advice for a working mom of a son with extreme ADHD and ODD can you provide? What would you recommend telling prospective employers? Would you recommend telling prospective employers that I have a son that may require me to have a flex schedule?
Yeah. So when Evan was diagnosed with ADHD, he was going through a math lesson and he kind of got up and just started sweeping the floor because he thought it would be helpful. And I guess he thought the floor would be dirty. So, it was a very tough moment for us as parents to get him tested and things of that nature. But overall, I would say a couple of things. From a very tactical perspective, with a mom that also has a son that has ADHD, we got him weighted, blankets or teddy bears that he used to help, have him focus or have like 10 minutes of, physical activity when he was about to go do something that he really needed to focus on academically. From a tactical perspective, as a mom that also has a son with ADHD, I would recommend a couple of those tips and tricks. From a professional perspective, I certainly would recommend saying, even if it's not to HR, that you have a son with ADHD. And what I found that I've been more vulnerable, with my kids' experiences, with my experiences, that everybody not only has been open to, hearing about my stories as you have been, but have been really understanding of, now they know when I need to take time, this is why. And so I think that's something that I really appreciate. As far as flex schedule, I think if you are feeling like there will be areas or days where you'll definitely need to be more present with your son at that moment. I certainly think most companies, inclusive of Initiative, are open to flex schedules. So definitely don't be shy to bring it up. I think that's one of my pivotal moments as well, where I wasn't super vocal when I was younger and less experienced, and now that I am more experienced, I'm pretty vocal, and that's been very fruitful for me.
Thank you for answering that question.
Yeah.
Christina asks, what are some of the key factors you look for when deciding to pivot or transform?
So from a pivot perspective, as far as career, I think about the key priorities for me as an individual. And so at that time, when I was pivoting the first time, it was more about, what are the key areas of focus that that made me tick. I found out a lot about myself. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to make sure that I was problem solving. So I would say that from that perspective. Sorry, I'm going to just take a sip of water. As far as transforming, it depends on the type of initiative, right? So overall, there are different types of transformation initiatives, and really understanding the strategic approach. Sorry, there.
No, it's I'm like have had 7, so don't worry.
Yeah, is what I would recommend for that type of initiative.
Thank you. All right, Lori asks, what are your thoughts on education level? I see lots of jobs asking for a bachelor degree. Do you think X amount of years of experience in the industry equals a bachelor degree? I have an associate's degree, but I have also worked in the 10 years in the tech industry.
I think it's a balance of experience and education, right? And so if you can showcase your experience and showcase the tangible benefits or tangible contributions that you've made, I think there's definitely merit to that as we think about new roles or applying to new roles.
Is it just called Work Tango? What is the elephant that you referred to?
The elephant that I referred to is our golden elephant reward. Our award that we kind of reward to specific individuals. The elephant is our spirit animal here at Initiative.
Oh.
And that's something that we've implemented as far as being able to, acknowledge really great work, but really great kind of relentless spirit in our folks that we see as part of our elephant as a spirit animal. And yes, the platform is called Work Tango. Kim Miller, if she's watching, can tell you a ton about it.
I am currently looking for a job. I recently obtained the Google design certification thanks to the Mom Project via Rise. I have a master's degree in social psychology and social work. I was a stay-at-home mom with my twins. Now they are 16 years old. And believe me, it is so hard to find a job, even for entry-level position. Previously, I worked as an event manager, researcher, HR specialist. Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Google UX design certification is definitely a unique one if you are looking to get into more of a tech side role. And yeah, my advice would be like, you obviously have a ton of experience. You have a ton of work experience in addition to life experience. Leverage that to your advantage and try to highlight those areas.
Mhm.
But if you really are looking for a tech role, definitely there are resources that can be leveraged to showcase that and amplify some of your skill sets. And that was when I took over the BI team I was referencing. I actually took a SQL class and that definitely helped.
Taylor asks, I see a lot of amazing jobs initiative is hiring for, none that I believe I am qualified for fully. How do you suggest we can become qualified without being given the opportunity?
So I will say initiative holistically have invested in learning and development. We not only have a learning and development team, but we have revamped our learning programs, and we're really passionate about learning and development here at our agency. The other thing, though, I will say is, if I'm interpreting your question correctly, as far as how do you get a foot in the door, I think even if you feel like you're not qualified for a role, apply. I'm sure somebody will reach out and either say there will be, X qualifications that maybe you can work on, or there could be, areas of focus that we may be able to bring you in and have some of that learning and development there as well.
I like it. And then I think someone from Initiative Mary commented, we ask for experience or, like a degree or experience. So I think always apply is my advice too. Well, okay, that was our last Q&A question. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today for Mentor Power Hour, sharing your story, sharing Initiative's amazing story. We've really appreciated it. And to everyone joining us today, I hope that you have learned something that you can take away for your professional and personal journey and beyond. As a reminder, a recording of the session will be emailed to you and available for replay on our YouTube. Jen, thank you again.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you everyone for not only the great questions, but hopefully I was able to impart some knowledge that is helpful in your day-to-day. And thank you all from Initiative as well that joined to help support the chat and listen to the session.
Well, everyone, we will see you at the next one. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.